Hello everyone and welcome to my Terminal for Beginners tutorial video. Now, this is going to be a fairly short video just detailing how to use the Linux terminal, Linux/Unix terminal, which basically means if you have a Linux computer, if you have a Mac computer, or if you have a Windows computer, you can use a Linux terminal. The only prerequisite is if you are on Windows, it does not have a Linux terminal by default, and you will need to follow instructions to installing something called WSL, which means Windows Subsystem for Linux, which is a Microsoft tool that allows us to get Linux on our computer. Now, if you happen to be on Windows and you have not set this up, I will be making a tutorial shortly on how to actually install WSL for Windows. So sit tight for that. Of course, if you're watching this later in the future, this video is probably out. It would be, probably one or two down from this video. It would be like a WSL installation tutorial. So yeah, if you don't have that set up in your own Windows, go ahead and do this. But besides that, everyone should have a terminal. Now, in this video, we will be covering all of these different commands and just going over the basics of terminal usage. There are no resources. As you can see, I'm here in my VS Code IDE, or development environment for code. You don't need to be if you're on Mac. You can just open your Launchpad, which is that rocket ship icon, and you can type in terminal and follow along. Of course, you won't have this visual. Of course, if you look here to this left, to the left here, there's some sort of a visual representation of the file system. You won't have that, of course, if you're not running an IDE, but you can still follow along with the commands. Same with Linux, same with Windows. Now, once you're here, so go ahead and open up your terminal. If you're on Linux or Mac, you can just open the terminal, or if you're using VS Code, this IDE here, you can go to View and then Terminal, or you can tip Control Backtick. Once you have your terminal open, regardless of your operating system, it'll look something like this. And actually, I'm going to quickly edit some settings here so I can increase my command line size. So terminal, yeah, sorry. This is a little odd, but I need to basically fix the sizing of my command. I might cut this out, I might not. 1822, 1822. Right, that's a little bit too big. Okay. So let's just do 4 and 14. Oops, I think I actually only need one here. All right, and then let's do a 16 or 17. 16 should be fine. Okay, sorry about that. I'm just adjusting my terminal size so it's more viewable for you. But either way, your terminal will look something like this. Now, the first command that we're going to go over is called clear. And again, you just need to type in these commands to follow along. So you can type a bunch of stuff in here, and of course, your thing will say, command not found. But either way, this whole section is kind of filled up. Now, in order to clear our terminal and just get a clean slate, you just type in clear, and that will work. And one note I really want to quickly make is if you are on Windows, again, and you do not have WSL, then this will not work. If you are running PowerShell or CMD, it will work for some of these commands, but they won't all work. And again, if you're on Windows, use WSL. But so the first command is clear. All it does is it clears your terminal. So again, you can type a bunch of stuff and you type clear and it clears it. That's simple enough. The second command is called ls. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to type ls and hit enter. And it might be a little bit hard to see here, but you can see application-based, backend, front-end, general web, all these things, all of them, or some of them are highlighted and some of them are not. And basically all ls does is it actually lists your current directory. And a directory is a folder. So as you can see here in my file, or in my computer, I'm in my Mount C users Matthew desktop YouTube Matthew Lin YT. This is my path, which basically means if you're on your computer and you open your file explorer where you can like click on folders and stuff, you would click on the desktop folder and then you would click on the YouTube folder, then you would click on the Matthew Lin YT folder. This is just a text representation. And then the ls basically says what is inside this folder. And you can see everything highlighted here are more folders, and then this one is a file, the one that's not highlighted. So that brings us into the cd command, which means change directory. Now again, folder means directory, or directory means folder in this context. So CD would move us into a different folder. For example, if I wanted to move into the other folder, which is right here, let me circle it with my mouse, right here. And then if I just type enter, you'll notice now here on the bottom, it says mount C users, blah, blah, blah. And then now it's slash other because I've changed my directory inside other. Now I'm going to type clear again. Now if I type ls, again, it'll list brew, npm, terminal, WSL. And if you look here on the left, you'll actually see other is a folder here. And then there's brew, npm, terminal, and WSL, 4 folders that are inside that. And you can see them listed here on our terminal. Again, I'm going to clear. So that's what lscd and clear are for. Now, if you want to see how we can actually move up, you may be wondering how we can do that, because if I type ls, there is no inherent way to go back into the Matthew Lin YT folder there without knowing how to do this. So you type cd to change your directory, and then there's a special, I guess, symbol or special phrase to go up a folder to get out of your current folder, and that is called dot dot. Now, if you type cd dot dot, it'll bring you back out to the Matthew Lin YT, and then we can type cd other again to go back, and then again we can do cd dot dot again to go back out. So you can see dot dot will get us out of our current folder, just like that. And then I'll go back into Matthew Lin YT and I'll clear. So dot dot brings us into our other folder, and if I type cd dot, a single dot actually will do nothing, because dot stands for the current folder and dot dot stands for the up folder, or the previous, going up a level folder, just to keep in mind. Now, on top of that, you actually might want to copy some files. So I'm going to demonstrate that here. You can see, let's go ahead and cd into our other folder, in my case, and then I'll clear after that. So here in this other, I'm going to create a quick file in VS Code. This is, you can create a file using whatever you want, but we'll just say test, or test.md. So I'll say hello with, like that. So this is just a file that says hello in it. And if I type ls now in other, you'll notice it says test.md right here. It's not highlighted, meaning it's a file. So what we can do is we can run this command called, right here, it's called cp. And what cp stands for is it means copy. So if I want to copy this test.md file here into a different file, I can type cp space test.md, and then space new file.md. So you'll notice what I'm doing here is I'm copying the file test.md into a new file called newfile.md. And if you look here on my left side, there's actually a new file here. It's called newfile.md, and it has the same contents. So notice we just copied that file. Now, on top of cp, we can actually use another command called mv, which stands for move. And basically, the only difference between cp and mv are mv will actually delete the original. So cp, you're creating a duplicate somewhere else. MV essentially creates the duplicate and then deletes the original. So it's like moving something instead of copying. So MV test.md to test new.md. If I just type that, you'll notice, and I reload here, there is no more test.md. It is now test new.md, and test.md has disappeared because we moved it to this new file. And you'll notice that that's actually how you can rename files, is you can just move a file to a new one with a different name, and it'll essentially rename the file. Now, if you want to altogether delete a file, you type rm, which stands for remove. So again, I'm going to type rm new file.md, or I'm going to type ls first. So you'll see here we have test new.md and we have new file.md. And then if I type rm space new file.md, and hit enter, that runs. And if I type ls again, notice now there's test new, but then new file has disappeared because rm is the deleting command. Now I'm going to go ahead and check all of these off here, so we keep track. Now we're almost through. And again, if you get confused at any point in time, you can of course pause the video. This is just meant to quickly run through all of the different commands. But again, if you need any more in-depth knowledge, you can look stuff up if you need it. Otherwise, you can just pause, rewind, and follow along. So the next command that we're going to showcase is called the mkdir command, or make directory command. So I'm going to go ahead and clear. I'm going to type ls once again. So you'll see we have testnew.md, and then I'm not sure if you can see these well, but there's brew, npm, terminal, and WSL, which are all folders, which is why they're highlighted. On my computer, they may not be highlighted on yours, but they may have some other distinguish characteristic. So you'll see here, brew, npm, terminal, and WSL here on my left file explorer. So I can actually make a new folder by typing make dir, and then I can say new folder, just like this, make dir space new folder. And if I reload, you'll see there is now a new folder right here. There is a folder, and if I type ls, you'll see it shows up right here as new folder, and it's highlighted. And then and then there's a command called sudo. You won't need to use this too often, but or I mean, depending on what you do, you may need to use it all the time. But essentially, sometimes your commands will not work in the terminal. And specifically, if you are trying to update a section of your file system that is not allowed, that you're not allowed to touch, or if you're trying to do something that requires quote unquote administrative purposes or administrative permissions, then you may not be able to grant that, for example, in Linux. And the way you actually do it is using a command called sudo. And sudo, all it means is it'll run the command as the administrator of your computer, or the root user as it's called in Linux terminology. So if you type sudo, and then I can type sudo ls, and then it'll say you need to give your password because it's essentially running the command as an administrator. So I already have my password. And notice it just prints out this directory. Nothing changed it, or nothing changed. Sudo, all it means is it'll run the command with higher permissions, which sometimes you need higher permissions. In this case, we don't need it, but just keep it in mind. And then the next command is cat. So again, I'm going to go ahead and clear just to keep everything clean. So I'm going to type ls, and you'll notice we have this testnew.md file. So cat basically allows us to quickly view the contents of a file. So I'm just going to type cat space testnew.md, and all it does is it prints what's inside. If I open up this file here, and I actually add more, so more lines, and of course, if I rerun that by typing cat testnew.md, it'll now say hello more lines. So it'll print out the entire contents of the file, and this is just a quick way to see what's inside. Now after that, you have a new command called touch. So I'm going to say touch this or new.md. So touch new.md, all this is doing is notice there is actually a new file called new.md. Now all touch does is it creates an empty file, and notice there is nothing inside. So that's what touch does. It just creates an empty file. And then finally, the last two commands are nano and vim. You may not have one or the other. Nano is the easiest text editor to use in a terminal. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go ahead and upsize my terminal here. That way we see mostly the terminal. I'm going to type ls, so you'll notice we have test new and then new.md. Again, if we type cat new.md, cat prints the contents, it'll print empty because there's nothing inside. So there's a tool called nano, which is a text editor. We could say nano space new.md, and now we are in GNU nano. And all that allows us to do is it allows us to update the file. So we can say hello there, and then all you do to save is you type Control X, and then it'll save modify buffer. You say yes, or you hit Y, and then you hit enter. And all that'll do is it'll save the file. And now if I type cat.new.md, there is the hello there that we just put. Now again, Nano is the easiest terminal or the easiest kind of text editor to use, but if you are a little bit more advanced, you may want to check out Vim. I'm not going to go over the tutorial because Vim is in its own right. It has a bunch of different commands and new things that you have to learn, but if you're up to it, you can look up a Vim tutorial. And again, it's the same thing, vim new.md, it's the same process, except it opens like this. And again, it's a little confusing because you need to hit I to start writing, if I type O, it'll create a new line, just like that. I can keep creating new lines by hitting escape O. And basically it has its own controls, and it's very easy to use once you learn it, but and it allows for much quicker editing of files. For example, if I'm writing some code like if I'm writing like C code or C++ code, so just like that, it allows you to quickly write code in the terminal, which is of course always a nice thing. And then when you want to save, you hit escape, you hit :WQ. W stands for write, Q means quit. So all it'll do is it'll write the file and quit. And then if we type cat new.md, we will have our code or whatever's inside the file. So that was essentially just a very quick overview. I'm going to hit the trash button to delete my terminal in VS Code only. And of course, that covers all of the different commands. If you were confused at any moment, please leave a comment down below. And of course, you can rewind the video, pause, and take as much time as you need to learn all of these commands. Of course, you're not going to memorize them all in one go. They take time. It took me forever to memorize all these, honestly. So yeah, just getting those out there. If you want to see more content like this, I recommend you check out the playlist section on my channel. I have all sorts of web development and other kinds of tutorials and just software engineering related content. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notifications whenever I post new videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.